All right, everybody. I think we are live.
Hi, we are live and welcome everybody. My name is Ninja Spence 21 and welcome to our bonus roundtable. That this is the first Sunday of the month that TBA does a podcast where that we will talk about topics about D&D. And then who do we have at the virtual table?
I'm a meat popsicle. Knox, resident smartass, and
I got that
actually has a good
reference.
DM.
I am a dice goblin. I don't think I need to introduce more than that. But I will. I am Frey, Emily.
I are Hewitt.
Oh my god, overlap. I am Neysa Does Cosplay, also known as Chaos Incarnate. Hi.
Then that we have a mixture of just chaos incarnate and then everything else in between. So that today's topic is about things that dungeon masters ban at the table. It could be spells, it can be items, but let's just give off on just a brief discussion about why ban certain items in general before we get on to specific.
I'm going to start off with you don't ban them. There are certain items you do not give out at the beginning of the game, but if you're banning something, either okay, well, I'll say this: you don't need to ban anything, but if you got to work with a player to retool something, that's fine. Because you might run into something that is way overpowered, like people were complaining about Aarakocra having like a 50-foot fly speed or something like that before they got nerfed. But I say you don't ban them. You just actually read what items are there so you don't introduce something completely game altering or ending at the very beginning.
Yeah, I'm of that mind. There, if a player comes up to me and says, "I want the staff of really cool Uber power," I'm gonna give it to him. But ultimately, what it boils down to is I am the DM. I control what they deal with. And if I have a player that has an item that makes goblinoids trivial, right, it will insta kill all goblinoids in a 100-foot radius. Guess what? They're not going to fight a lot of. Or they're either not going to fight a lot of them, or they are going to fight a metric fuck ton of them. Because if this staff kills goblins, goblins know about it. And they want it to get rid of it. So you're ultimately what it boils down to is you have control. You have control of the world. If someone is using has an item that is using it to the point that it's making everything that you throw at them trivial, you need to reconsider what you're throwing at them.
Anyone else?
I would say follow up with Knox if they want to do something like that with them. Just take the old 80s D&D cartoon point. Just throw Tiamat at them within 3 seconds of them showing up at the world. And then the other villain shows up 2 seconds later. I will always love that about that show. That was someone trying to kill their players / those kids like immediately.
Neysa, you got anything to add to this?
I feel like I'm on the same track and train of thought as the other two DMs at the table, because it's yes, it is there are some items that can be insanely overpowered, and so it's not just a matter of giving it to them when they have earned it or have the capacity in world to actually use it and utilize it to its full effectiveness without it being significantly OP, but it's also a matter of if a player comes to me with an idea for an item for their character, it's my job as the DM to take that information and not only fit it to my world and my story, but make it so that I can successfully meet that challenge if it is going to be a challenge. If I'm not creative enough to counter that challenge, then I shouldn't have the item in the game. But that's where it's on me as the DM to be like, okay, sure, but it's cursed. Or yes, but like Nox said, you'll never have an encounter where it's going to be possible. When we get a little, I don't want to hog too much time right now, but I have instances of that where I gave a really OP item and gave it some really bad drawbacks that kind of proved the point.
To follow up with that, something that can be fun is to say, oh, you found the Hand of Vecna. And then people that are not paying attention are like, oh, Hand of Vecna, yeah. And then all of a sudden they realize they got like the Kmart version, and it just doesn't do what they think it's going to do. Or there is the parable. Sorry, Neysa, what was that?
Kmart Hand of Vecna? I kind of want to know what the bargain brand does.
That's why I'll have to figure that out now, because the Hand of Vecna might need to be a thing. But the other fun thing to do is the Head of Vecna parable to a party. That's all about like stealing or getting a hold of super powerful magic items. So do we got a second? Has anyone heard this one before? The story of the Head of Vecna?
No.
Okay, so the Head of Vecna is a parable that has been used in some games before. I learned about this when Chris Perkins did a lore you should know about Vecna recently. But what it is you go to an inn, and the innkeeper the party has been like known for going around stealing shit, starting fights, and just being your general let me get as much loot as possible type party. And you drop through the tavern keeper, someone else that out in an old, mostly torn down temple on the side of a mountain is the Head of Vecna, supposedly more powerful than the eye or the hand. And you let the party go up there, give them some adventures, let them find some other loot, something that seems like it's what they need. And when they get there, there is a desiccated head with one eye that they can try to take. Well, to use the eye or to use the hand, you must replace your own with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then the party slowly kills themselves trying to use the item to where the last person left is then killed by all the people in the town that they've been treating like shit. And even though they probably will take out most of the villagers or whoever attacks them, that last person still goes down because the dichotomy of the turn action order. It was used for that, but also it's a plot point for like an evil party might have thrown the information out about the head, and then they wait for you to mostly kill each other so then they can come in and just steal your shit. So I thought that was a beautiful. I thought that was a beautiful little thing to fuck over a traditional like magic item grubby party kind of thing.
It's beautiful. It's so evil. It's beautiful.
Very beautiful. Anything that you want to add to this, Emily?
I mean, I come at things as not a DM, but as a player. So I feel like if a DM is banning things outright from a table because it's something that lends to a story or a plot device, it's not so much banning as going along with the story. Like in the game we were playing before we started streaming Holy Winds, the region of the world of we were in Lothria that the game took place in, halflings were not a thing. Like when I came into the game, I was going to play a halfling wizard, and he would say, "No, you can't do that. Halflings are not known in this part of the world. You cannot play a halfling." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I ended up playing my tiefling wizard Beltari. Or like, I have some ideas for a game I'd like to run that would make it so you couldn't take certain classes or spells early on, if at all. I think if it's something for plot to go along with the story to enhance the story somehow, or to enhance difficulty, or just make it a little twist for players, it's one thing. If a DM just wants to ban something just because they don't want to deal with it, like I've heard of DMs that ban flight. Like you either can't play a character that flies, or they won't let you have the spell fly. And to me, I don't want to say that's lazy, because that sounds a lot meaner than I intend it to be, but because I mean, a DM doesn't want to deal with what they don't want to deal with, but I feel like that's kind of clipping the wings of the players and not letting them be as creative as they might like to be.
I mean, that I can definitely agree with just that point, as far as in, that even though that I am a storyteller DM, that I don't ban anything on the table, because because then it just as that the other three DMs have stated that us as a DM should be able to weave and then craft, situations to where then that, that you can certainly use this item, but it has this in it, that you have to add, that you have to either play devil's advocate or else have a monkey, or not a, or else or else give the party a monkey's paw situation with said items. So that just leaves me to like that, that I had posted up something up in our chat about like items and stuff being banned from games. So what are your thoughts on items before we get to spells? And if that you have any other stories or anything like that, go for it. Starting with Miro or else Frey.
Okay, I can start off with this, like talking about banning certain magic items. No, don't ban a magic item. You as a DM need to be fluid enough, adaptable enough, and able to improv enough that if a magic item comes into play, you should be able to work around it. If you give the whole party, like in Lost Seas, which is full of magic items, the entire economy of the Halfling Archipelago, which, like Emily was saying, one continent doesn't have a bunch of them, but the archipelago is where the Halflings on Arax came from. That is where they started. And the entire area is powered, its economy is magic items. Go out to where this continent was destroyed in the middle of the archipelago and find stuff and come back and sell it to people. So the entire party has a ton of powerful magic items. My solution? Either wear them down with a ton of minions to where resource management becomes a problem, or throw something so powerful at them that it doesn't matter that they have that super powerful magic item. Like a really goofy magic item that we have in there that another DM might ban is something that Claire's character Kogo has, the pinky toe ring of regeneration.
Yeah, you made that a little broke.
Well, initially it didn't seem broke because once around you gain 1d4 of health. And while you're wearing it, any limb that was destroyed will slowly regrow. It is a dinky little thing until you start factoring in death saves. And it constantly clears out failed death saves, even as someone say, falls into a scalding river of water, they get knocked unconscious. Start of the round, they heal 4 HP, then they get knocked unconscious. Next round, they heal back 1d4, and then they go back unconscious. So, I mean, it's one of those that at first look, the magic item isn't that big of a deal, but it literally prevents a character from dying when it comes to death saves. And we had not thought about that the entire time, and I just started laughing because I was like, great, now I can never kill Kogo. So it was just one of those things that's kind of funny. So, I mean, just adapt and move with it. Also, I'm always an advocate that, yes, the DM guide has a massive list of magic items. The internet has a ton of things on the wiki. That's all well and good. I also like creating magic items because Nox could tell you I've given him a wizard staff made out of Pabst Blue Ribbon and Natty Light cans that were duct taped together. He has the staff of Dale Earnhardt. So,
Specifically, the staff of the ghost of old Dale Earnhardt.
Yep.
Why? Because that day he gave me that staff, and it was just so happened to be the day that the ghost of old Dale Earnhardt's Twitter came up with a quote that said, "Y'all motherfuckers forgot where we came from. Y'all remember why we started modifying stock cars? To run for them cops. Why we were running? Because fuck them. That's why." So that was that. So that became this. And the thing about the staff is, I mean, it's a +1 or a +2 staff, I think. But that's not the kicker of that staff is that it adds 2 to the basically adds 2 to my DC, or adds 2 to the DC check for them to save against my spells. So if my DC is a 14, they have to beat a 16, and that's where it comes in. Well, that's nice. I'm a transmutation wizard. I got Fireball, Shatter, and Lightning Bolt. The only 3 spells that I got that have deck saves.
I love Shatter.
So, yeah, is that staff OP? Absolutely. It doesn't matter because I've only got my character is not super known for high volume, big damage spells.
Which is one reason I gave you the staff, is because you self-limit with that. So again, like to kind of know the item, especially if you make an item, and don't ban them. Just if you don't feel your party's ready yet for a Storm Giant Strength Belt, don't give it to them. But if somebody really wants it, it's down the road where they can find it. Like, if there's an item your party wants, you might be like, no, you can't have it right now, but now we got a side quest. Now you have a goal. And that can be its own fun side mission, or, hey, the BBEG is doing something evil over here, but the high-end collection of magic item shop is now left unattended, and you saw that item. Now you're making someone do something that questions their whole alignment and what they would do. And that might have consequences with the rest of the party. Yeah, you might have 28 strength. The rest of the party knows you're a strong asshole now.
Well, I mean, and it
Deal with that.
It even goes into the other side of Kaloum in our first game. Hey, how many sessions, how many towns did we go through before with him looking for a specific item, a specific sword that fit into his kit? It took like 2 or 3 towns before he found something that almost worked perfectly. You're the DM.
Then he got the Sword of Ghost Bros.
Then he got his Sword of Ghost Bros. I mean, it is ultimately what it boils down to. I don't care what the item is.
Right. And Neysa, that you got anything to share on this point?
Yeah, I'll stick to just two examples. Both of them from the actually the same game. So I had it was a relatively newly put together party. I'd say they'd had 6 or 7 sessions at that point, and or no, it might have been a little more than that. But anyway, I basically set them up with a impromptu. They'd found a flyer that was essentially a advertisement from Asmodeus. And so they were all given options, catered to their individual play styles and plot lines to that point. That if they wanted a deal, they could have a deal. Um, and yes, Asmodeus are us. Thank you, Hewitt. I ended up having only 3, technically 4, but one player then had to leave for other reasons. But I had 4 of the party of 6 that became 3 of the party of 5 who decided to take deals. 2 of those deals revolved around items. One of them, she was a fighter, and she's actually a relatively new player. So like I spent a really good amount of time like laying it out for her meta-wise about what was happening here. She could enter into this deal. Essentially her sword of vengeance that she already had would be upgraded to a homebrew of my own design. And essentially that was it. Her deal with Asmodeus was going to be just go make some carnage. Go kill things. That was it. There wasn't really any definitive brain words, any definitive litigation in the contract. It was just go kill things, have fun with it. She took the deal, and so her sword of vengeance got upgraded to something that essentially any creature that dropped to 0 hit points within 5 feet of her its soul got sucked into the sword. The sword then had a soul count for however many souls it was holding. For each soul it was holding, it did an extra 2 damage every time she hit with it. And so by a few weeks after that, her sword was dealing an extra 10 damage on a hit. At that point, I had her start making wisdom saves against the soul count of the sword. So starting at DC 10 or whatever it was at the time. And so another couple of weeks went by before something happened and she failed her wisdom saves against the sword. And so she basically got then possessed by the sword and turned on her teammates. So it was a really fun, really interesting dynamic because they already had kind of figured out, oh, it's the sword that's the problem here. And so they were trying to figure out a way to remove the sword from her, like holding it, without actually hurting her. They succeeded. And later on, once she was removed from the presence of the sword and she came back to herself, she realized she didn't want to be a part of that anymore. She ended up getting another audience with Asmodeus, and he released her from the contract because that was it. The contract had been do some damage. She'd done some damage. But now she didn't have a really OP sword anymore, so that started her on the journey of trying to figure out how to get another sword. And I rewarded her with a good little +2 sword now. Because, you know, that's what you do. You reward them for making nice decisions. The other guy who took the other guy who took a contract from Asmodeus, who's still with the party, he's a warlock patron, great old one. Specifically, he's a Yuan-Ti under Dendar. Dendar being the nightmare serpent, a primordial entity. His deal with Asmodeus was something I was pretty sure he wasn't going to be able to pass up. A spell book for a Pact of the Tome Warlock that literally has every spell ever cast written in it. The catch is, if he goes to cast a spell from that book, a soul of a Yuan-Ti goes to Asmodeus. His whole pact with Dendar revolved around returning the Yuan-Ti to their worship of Dendar. He just cast his first spell from the Asmodeus book last session, or the session before. And we still have yet to see what the consequences are of that. So technically, these items I gave them were really overpowered. But I have it structured into the story, and the players themselves know it, that neither of these really OP items are just free game. There's consequences for using them. And so in that way, it self-regulates. Because the character that has this spell book, he knows that it's going against the pact he's already made. He doesn't know the full extent of those consequences yet, but he knows, like, he made that deal knowingly. And so it self-regulates, not just from the player side of things, but from the character side of things. I also have a group of players that have a deck of many things. And I worked it in where one of them was dared. It was actually Spencer's character was dared to draw a card. Their entire party had only drawn one card in like the months that they've had this thing. And so a different chaos character suggested and made a bet with Spence's character to draw a single card. She did, and it was kind of a bad card, but it wasn't terrible for the party. Then the rest of the party was like, oh, hey, that wasn't so bad. And a whole bunch of them started wanting to pull cards. We ended up losing one of the characters to the donjon. And so it kind of threw me for a loop because I hadn't been expecting that yet. And they were already on other fetch quests and things, but I was able to work it around to where another thing that they're fetch questing might be somewhere near wherever the character they lost to the donjon is. And so I'm hitting two birds with one stone. If you're creative enough, there is not a single item that cannot be used and utilized successfully and for the fun of the party and the pursuance of the story when you have an item at your table. It's all about how open-minded and willing to bend the rules maybe a little bit you might be. But everything should be possible. That's why it's a fantasy game.
Good point. And then you, Knox.
Yeah, if it all goes down to goes back to very simple. If if as a DM, if you're having a problem with an item or a spell or something is giving your party an advantage that is making what you are doing trivial, you are the one responsible for fixing it. And I understand that. Well, this is where I understand the process of the progression of the story is leading him to this area that is going to be trivial. Then fix it. Roll on a random encounter generator. Add 5 more dudes that they gotta fight, or add somebody. If there is an item that is causing that big of a problem, it's probably a pretty powerful item. It's probably known in certain circles. There are probably people looking for it that know how to fight against it. There's a lot of different options, and ultimately, as the DM, it is your responsibility to fix it. Because if person A is so OP that all combat is trivial. If that is causing someone else at the table to not have fun, or to be bored, or to not be able to do cool shit, then it needs to be addressed. If everybody's having fun, let them nuke the fucking planet.
Right.
Or on that same note, like, let's say you have the Staff of Mordenkainen, or you have something from Bigsby, or you have something from Melf. There's a chance they want it back, and then you have a chance of bringing in something that is so powerful and is well known to most players that it'll be an issue for them. So just all of a sudden, a portal opens, a bald man with a Van Dyke goatee goes, all right, I'm going to need that shit back right now. Also, why were you going through my old storage or locker? And now you have not just a high level or a high CR individual. You have a story moment that if the party survives, like, yeah, apparently we pissed off Mordenkainen by going through his storage locker and finding shit. We thought it was a dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, and then Emily, your perspective as a player on like, have you ever like experienced? I know that I know that you had spoke out earlier about that. You know that certain races were banned, but have you ever had a DM that ever had items banned from a table you was playing?
No, I don't think so. Because most people I've played for are here, except John. Not really. I mean,
All
I
right.
don't think. I know that Miro has definitely done the thing where it's like the item is not as useful as you thought it was gonna be.
Mixel's marvelous magic items.
Fuck you. Fucking Mixel. That is pure chaos.
Where's Nilvac? Where's Nilvac?
Oh Jesus.
I mean, yeah, I mean, then that I think that the point that I would just basically add is that I was on Pinterest the other day. It was like some years back. I got to go on my D&D board and find it, but the party finds a high-level wizard spell book, but the thing is he was dyslexic. So the wish spell is wash. And then it's just like a bunch of other like misspelling words, and then that I had also shared just with the panel that this Reddit post about that this guy basically swapping around like like certain spells, like instead of like where is one like catnap, it is basically catnip, where it says that all cats within 120 feet becomes very excited and use their movement to get closer to the caster for like the next minute. So it's just basically us as a DM, you have to be able to weave in and, like change up those items that, it's just like giving those hard choices with items and stuff, in which I am moving on to spells. And let's just go ahead and get up into this can of worms.
Now, Spencer, are you going to mention spells so we can discuss them? Because I got
okay.
like
I can
because I was going to say, I think that we're going to kind of echo ourselves on saying don't ban a spell, like don't ban a magic item.
Right. Yeah, so I had found the... Go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, just would you mention some of the ones that are the most banned or people seem to hate, and we can just discuss them?
Yeah, I mean, then like that, I had posted up that form. Sorry, Neysa, go on.
The list you posted. Go down the list.
Yeah, then I had basically like posted this forum topic that I found on Morris Unofficial Tabletop RPG News, that this is about 2.5 years old. Some item come from Harples on the Sword Coast. Okay.
No,
so basically...
Sorry, I was going to say in the chat, the Harples, especially Harple from the Driss series, makes a spell that's kind of awesome, but it don't work right. Or they do something like breed a horse and a frog, and no one knows exactly why. they are your goofy ass wizard group.
So that is
I had an
rather
alchemist
interesting.
like that. It was
So
fun.
so basically, that from that this form that this DM decides to start this whole, excuse my French, shite show about basically spells, and people had chimed in. So some of the favorites are Counterspell, Healing Spirit, Tiny Hut, Banish, Heat Metal, Polymorph, Find Familiar, and Detect Magic, and that the aforementioned Wish and Counterspell.
These are
Have
ones that he
fun.
wants to ban.
I'm going to
Yes,
start.
that he bans from his table.
I'm going.
Polymorph!
I'm going to start off. I'm going to start off with Healing Spirit.
Healing
They've-
Spirit is on here, and also
Yeah,
Revivify is.
I know. I'm going to start with Healing Spirit. No, Healing Spirit's fine, especially now since they nerfed it. Initially, you could conga line a whole army through your spirit during the time that you had the concentration up, and they'd heal a d6. Now you can only heal up to your proficiency modifier or your spellcasting modifier, but it's a stationary. Like I summon. Oh, over here, I got a troll or some other fae, a spiritual creature, or some angel or whatever, and now all you gotta do is walk through this space, and you can walk back again later. But on one turn, I cannot heal more than what my modifier is. That's not OP. Like, I saw people complain about this one in Silvery Bar, or Bells, or Silvery
It's
Barbs.
not overpowered.
They're not. They're not overpowered. That's actually a really cool spell, because that's a second level healing spell Rangers can pick up.
And druids.
Andrew, so I mean, that is useful, especially, I'm going to say this, I like Rangers. Unless you optimize the build, 5e Rangers are a little underpowered. So allowing them to have a second level healing spell ain't ridiculous. So I just got on that one because I've seen that one recently, people bitching about. I'm like, why are you? I want to make a magical floating walrus that heals my friends and hugs them.
Oh no, people
Don't
bitch
take-
about Silvery Barb. Oh my god. It's
mean,
a level 1 spell, it's not a cantrip. Eventually you can't do it.
Same. Well, I mean, the chronologist wizard can do something kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Hell, you
Well,
did
then
it. You did it with the divination wizard. Like, you can just fuck up someone's roll. That's nothing new. Here's a level 1 spell that allows you to do it, and it's not OP.
I mean, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to keep bitching.
I mean that as someone that is playing a chronologist wizard, and then with just at the DM of said game, it really hasn't really. It had maybe like helped out maybe once to basically be like reaction to reroll that. You know that's about it, and then that the 6th level ability to incapacitate someone for like until that they receive damage. That is written very well.
Now,
Can you just name off a couple of the spells again, Spence?
Sure.
Because I was having a thought, but I kind of forgot what some of them were.
Okay.
Say only 3 of them at a time, though, because
Yeah,
I feel like
let's-
that's a big list. That
Just a couple, because I was thinking of classes and my brain kind of went.
Okay. Counterspell, Lehman's Tiny Hut, Heat Metal,
okay, so
just to name 3 for now.
Heat metal is
Okay.
awesome.
heat metal is awesome. Emily mentioned one today that was absolutely terrifying use.
Oh,
Heat me-
TikTok is giving me ideas.
Heat metal on someone's gold tooth.
oh,
Cast water walk on someone jumping over the side of your boat to try and swim away. It's gonna be like hitting concrete.
So I mean, heat metal is so great if you have a big party of heavy armor killimajigs.
Yeah, but if you're fighting druids, you're screwed. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, not everybody, like, what? Let's see, what is there? Fighters, clerics, and paladins are the main ones that can wear heavy armor for the most part. And I mean, there's some ability, you can pick up other stuff with other classes to get the heavy armor, but there's like 3 parties that can mess with, or 3 character types you can mess with. I guess it messes with metal constructs, but it's a utility spell that is awesome. It also lets you know which one of your friends and players are psychopaths.
Yeah.
Now, anyone that wants to ban Counterspell can kiss my whole ass, because
the answer for Counterspell
It's kind
is Counterspell.
exactly. I think in the first game in Forgotten Sands, sorry, we had a 6-way counterspell. We had a 6-way counterspell.
Oh god.
Like, someone countered the bad guy, so the bad guy countered, so they countered the bad guy's counter, and then the bad guy's minion countered, so someone countered the bad guy's minion's counter. So eventually the initial spell fizzled, but everybody just counterspelled in the room, and it's like doing the Spider-Man pointing at each other meme.
I was gonna say, like, some of these spells, like Heat Metal. Heat Metal is a 2nd level spell. And maybe with some higher level spells, I could maybe understand a DM not wanting to use them because it OPs a character in particular, which I still think is, again, a little bit lazy on the DM's creativity. Like, find a way around it. But taking away like a spell that's not even that high a level or something is really unfair to magic based classes. Like, I play a sorcerer in our home game. I can't do shit all but magic. I cannot do anything but magic. I nat 20'd on a dryad to bitch slap it as an attack of opportunity, and I don't have any weapons. All I could do was do 2 max damage. That's it. So that, or, you know, a low level wizard who already doesn't have enough damn HP to hardly walk over a rock.
Die from 1d4 fart damage.
I feel like that's someone who doesn't want exclusive magic users in their game without a lot of trouble for them. Like, they want the magic user to have to try really hard. And that seems like a little unfair to me.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't play magic
So,
users a lot.
Let Neysa speak.
I'd like to weigh in on Counterspell. I at least haven't had my players yet at any of my table games be able to be at that level where they could cast Counterspell. I also have I have a personal rule with me as a DM, because I don't want to be the cause of my players trying to get off a really great spell, and then the BBEG or one of the BBEG's minions just says no. So my thing is, unless I have a player that actually actively starts counterspelling things, I'm saving it for retaliation, like BBEG level retaliation. I'm not going to have counterspell at my table, but it's not explicitly banned. I just feel like it's a really petty spell. And I don't want to deal with the emotions and the ethics that come with that. But again, I haven't had players get to that level yet where we could actually be throwing it around willy-nilly. So, that's all I wanted to say about Counterspell.
Counterspell is, here's the thing about all of these spells. All of these spells are level 2, level 3 spells. They are spells that when you get them, you feel like they're going to be, speaking from experience, you feel like they're going to be.
Did we just lose Nox?
Yeah, Nox, do you live? Have the Terminators come for you?
Skynet. Oh no.
She is.
Oh, there he is.
Did I kind of freak out a bit?
You totally left. You glitched hard, man.
All of these level 2 are 2, 3, 4 spells. They are the reason that people complain and bitch about these spells. The reason that people ban these spells at their table. It is because these are people who are playing low, mid level campaigns, level 6, level 7, level 8 campaigns that get to level 6, level 7, level 8. When the characters when all classes really start to come into their own. Paladin, most martial classes get their second attack. Spellcasters are starting to get spells that are that solve problems. Fireball, lightning bolt, Faithful Hound is OP as hell. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, it takes a 4th level spell slot, but for 8 hours you have a familiar that actually works like a character. The problem is that I would be willing to bet any amount of money that all of the DMs that are bitching and complaining about these spells do not have games that go into higher levels, because it gets to a point they're supposed to feel this is kind of overpowered. It's supposed to feel that way. Your characters are coming into their own. Once you get into level 12, level 13, level 14, at that point, counterspell is no longer a problem at the table. It is now a part of your kit. It is also a part of every bad guy magic user worth his salt's kit. Bad guy casts a spell, I counterspell it. His reaction is to counterspell my counterspell. When it gets to that point, you're casting spells higher than level 3. At higher than level 3, there's a chance it fails. At that point, it is no longer near the OP issue that we're discussing here tonight.
I agree.
So
and then let's go to the big one of them all, polymorph.
Nothing wrong with polymorph whatsoever. If
Not at all.
if your party wants to have someone polymorph into a T-Rex in a fight that probably really doesn't warrant polymorph, that's them using up their resources.
Absolutely.
Also, if you play a game where the bad guys know what they're doing, if they attack minions of the BBEG or they attack a section of the cult, and anybody can send a message or something like that before the battle's over, the rest of the group now knows one of these dudes can turn into a giant dinosaur or turn into a giant lizard
Or
turn into this thing, and then they start prepping for that. So all of a sudden, I polymorph into a T-Rex. Cool. They drop a weighted net on you that makes you fall forward and you can't push yourself back up.
Or conversely, they cast polymorph on the guy trying to send the message. They turn him into a mouse. That message doesn't get out. The party then does not have that information.
Also,
No,
But
I'm
what they
saying
do-
no. What
But
I'm
what
saying
they
is
do
like
have,
I'm saying is that the bad guys, like, because the thing I'm getting is like, why would someone like a DM ban a spell at a table?
I think
Because
I think
they don't want to deal with it.
in terms of polymorph, I think maybe some DMs might be more intimidated by it than they need to be.
Yeah.
Because as an example, again from our home game that we don't stream, my character Nazar took polymorph, and Nazar's a little OP because Hewitt didn't really pay attention to how many sorcery points I had. And I've
No,
way too many.
I knew how many sorcery points you had. It's just that
I have more than I should. I know that. I know that now, but it's
yeah,
too late.
because you have it's because you also have a magic item that helps with that. It's
But,
you are able to be a bomb, but you're a glass cannon in that game.
but like I hadn't used polymorph a lot yet, and we were getting chased by Wendigos.
Yep.
And I was not visualizing the combat field correctly. I thought that they were like on the ground attacking one of our paladins, Ulbrich. What it actually was it was jumping off of a cliffside. So it was in midair, or just about in midair. I cast Polymorph on the Wendigo, trying to chomp on Ulbrich. I changed into a rat. I was like, okay, cool. Wendigo, rat. Can't hurt him. It was flying through the air. Hit the ground, took 2 points of damage, popped back up as a Wendigo and started chomping on him again. So it's not always going to be this epic, amazing thing that you change something or someone, into a turtle. Like, heck, Critical Role, something got changed into a turtle and friggin' Ford was scared to shit of it,
Because it was a giant turtle. It was literally still a massive damage dealer.
But
Neysa? Oh, sorry, go on.
I personally think this is just, as not a DM, I think a DM's reasoning for banning something, a spell, anything that is intimidation, that they can't think of a way around it. Which is, legit, but come up with a way around it,
And Neysa.
What? I've only had one character, again, at my tables thus far, who has used Polymorph. And their polymorph of choice at that point was a giant ape, which was honestly really fun. It became meme fuel for our group for a while. And I don't see what the, like, in general, what the problem is. I know Spence is going to want to weigh in on this particularly because of backstory reasons. But even when my my level 20 character had a potentiality of 4 instances of polymorph, I never even got like but one of them off, just because of how action economy and everything else went down with that party. I never had opportunity really to really get into it, so I don't feel that I'm that qualified to speak on it to any extent. But yes, I agree with everything that's been said thus far.
Same. I mean, that basically that the thing that Neysa was just basically referencing was that my first instance of Stefan Carcass, that the reason that the party basically disbanded it and then that game had ended because that I was dealing with a power gamer rules lawyer type kind of player, and basically he was complaining about the fact of that these orcs should be dead because I pitted them up against like some level 11 orcs because it suited the story where that they were at. And then he was like, I'm supposed to be hitting these orcs way beyond like a 16 to hit or something like that. Like, anyway, so that basically that the wizard decided to transform that the wood elf fighter into a T-Rex, and then that the problem player had also got turned into a T-Rex, and then that they basically raffle stomped the encounter and all of that. I did not get mad about it or anything. It's just like, okay. But what had really basically brought that game to an end was basically that this unknown player that they had already brought into the group, and then that it kind of blindsided me, where that he just picked any item, not even like consulting with the DM, because I was still a newish DM at the time, so I didn't know about that the rarities systems and stuff that I do now. He had picked the Staff of Power and just basically nuked the battlefield, and we had a huge fallout and stuff. With that being said, that still did not stop me from like, I don't ban any items or spells in my game, because I have learned to basically overcome that one bad situation and basically steal the techniques that have been said tonight, as far as in like, like, you can get this item, but there is a price to pay with it, or else that oh, that you want to use this spell. It is just kind of like like it's a video about Tasha's Mind Whip, where like one of my characters was basically using Tasha's Mind Whip, which is a very, very good spell, but that the creature that she had went up against was a three-headed cobra. So it was basically like a semi-stun effect, but it was still, a fair ruling. I believe it really was.
Yeah, we just did that on Thursday.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be up. It'll be up sometime in late July or August. But like on,
Shameless plug.
yep. Now I wanted to bring something up that you showed earlier in here, Spence. Is I saw Revivify.
Yeah.
Now, the only reason I would say that in the campaign you might not have Revivify, and I've seen this done to effect with some live streams, is that bringing people back from the dead magic doesn't exist in that world. And that was an active decision by DM and players, which to me is not a ban, because it's not like, oh, anytime you walk up to this table, oh, you don't get to do Revivify, fuck all your cleric healing spells. No. I've seen some people to where they take away the option to bring back the dead, except for like animate a corpse to be a minion, so that everybody understands that death is heavy in the game. And if that's what people want to play, that's perfectly fine. But I play D&D to escape a little bit, so I kind of like all the fantasy elements. And I've also seen there's one podcast, I listened to it on Dragon Talk, and there is no healing magic because they feel the people who are playing this are handy capable. I think that's the correct term. They have some type of physical limitation. So they said that they got, they feel like, oh, we can just heal away a cut off arm or heal away a broken leg. And so they decided to, they're like, oh, we're not gonna have healing magic so that, we don't take away these hurts, these injuries, because then people live with them instead of treating them like a handicap. They're just another aspect of themselves. Now, I can kind of get that, but I'll be honest, I'm going to keep healing magic and Revivify in my games, because you want to bring somebody back from the dead because you're a awesome magical hero of yore. Awesome. Let's rock with this. Please have your diamond ready.
What's more annoying is on the flip side of that is there's people that complain about people who have characters with some kind of handicap or something because it's a world of magic. You should be able to fix that. That's way more irritating.
Sometimes it's not something that needs to be fixed.
I know. I don't understand that side of the coin.
So I've seen people like that, like with the Lothria campaign that Emily mentioned. I made a giant continent the size of about Asia and Africa combined. It was originally the only continent on Arax, my world. And it was in this, it was just this massive desert. And it was harsh, and it was grumpy, and it was angry. And I was like, I don't think I can do that to hobbits. I don't think I can do that to halflings. I don't want to run Dark Sun. And so I didn't have halflings in that world. They lived out past the breakers. Or they lived out past the stuff that trapped the continent. So they were elsewhere in the world. They just weren't on Lothria. And eventually the lore revealed the continent was literally a prison. So I didn't have some of the cutesy happy groups show up in that game because it was a giant mining campaign for a lot of it. So I think there's a difference between, okay, this campaign we're not doing this, and a straight up ban. And if you straight up ban something from tables, that's just a lack of imagination, I think, like we've been saying.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, a lot of these issues and a lot of these these people are having. I'm willing to bet money they don't go. The campaign falls apart or ends before level 12. Um, before these OP things become part of, but just become pieces of tool. I have in my home game. Uh, I have a divination wizard uh, who has who rolls in front at the beginning of every rest and has a really nasty habit of rolling 19s and 20s for his d20s at the beginning of the day. So I there are mechanics in the game that circumvent the rules. They're there for a reason. They're there for you to deal with because guess what? As the DM, you can use them too.
Any final thoughts from Neysa and Emily?
I think that there's a table out there and a game out there for everyone. And if you're cool with making things work, even if it feels OP for a while, then you're welcome at my table, and thanks. Have a good day.
I just feel like I've said like 3 times now, it's a game of creativity. And I don't say it that to be mean to anyone who has trouble getting around some of these things they might feel are OP, but it's only as difficult as you make it for yourself. Because I know enough DMs to know that you can make something very difficult for the party that they think is not going to be difficult at all if you just think at the right angle. So take something you think is a handicap for you and make it a handicap for them if you need to. But I feel like banning things unless there's a very specific plot-driven reason for something to not be included, either temporarily or ever, then you just don't want to deal with it. And I think that takes the fun out of a lot of it.
Agreed. I mean that there is something at my just at my place of employment that people have a hard time understanding this, people. And I am going to say this, and everybody can agree with this. Reading is fundamental. You have rules in place for all of the items and spells. Just as much as each of us said, you can use creativity as the DM to essentially weave and wave whatever happens. Counterspell that that just so happens that that they have a back pocket scroll of 5th level counterspell to counteract their counterspell. Stuff like that. You as the DM are basically in control of the worlds and stuff. And from like another podcast that I have listened to that basically said that like if that you want to limit things and stuff, you should just write you a book. Because because of the fact that Dungeons and Dragons, as that Miro has said, and just any other tabletop system, it's just basically an outlet for us to basically escape from just life itself. That I don't think banning items is going to help make the game even better, because there is nothing wrong with just tossing in just a little bit of chaos every now and then. I mean that every single decision is made up on just a dice, so just roll with the punches, and then things will be fine. But I do believe that we are out of time, so I am going to let Frey and then Miro do our closing things. But thank you guys so much for just at this rather lengthy topic that we could possibly go on for about the next hours and hours upon, but it is getting late over here for us.
Thank you for leading the discussion.
Yeah.
You're
Em, if you can do all the social stuff, I'm the one that always messes it up.
You remember it more often now than you used to.
Eh.
Eh. Well, we're glad that anyone listening tonight. We enjoy babbling. You can find all of our previous episodes over on Brain, YouTube. We are where we are team bonus action, just like we are here. We are team bonus action on Facebook, where I forgot to post tonight. We are at bonus_team on Twitter. I am on TikTok as at fre.kun Fre-kun, where I am trying to post more about our games and such. I posted about our podcast tonight. Hopefully, we can draw in some more views and likes from over there. We have Monday tomorrow. We have ended our season of Holy Winds, where we are all, on the run as public enemy number ones through like 6. So we are going to go back to Lost Seas for the short foreseeable future until we finish that game out. Thursday, be back to Tears of Kairos. Next Sunday, we will be traveling. Hewitt and I will be traveling, and that whole next week we will be in Indiana. So, unless people are able to live stream from their own places, I do not think I think that will be a week off for TBA. Excuse me. The LaCroix got to me. Go soda. Why do you betray me?
Because it has no soul or flavor.
Shut up. But so yeah, regular this coming week after will be a quiet week for the team, and then we will be back to our regularly scheduled programming the week after that. So I think that is all I've got. So I'm gonna hand it over to Knox.
We appreciate y'all hanging out with us this evening. Keep up to date with everything that Frey just said. And until next time, don't let your meatloaf.